Go ahead, you do it. Uh, That's fine.
Okay, and pretend that I'm standing up, but I pledge allegiance. I wasn't supposed to be funny, but I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Uh, I haven't been able to set up a time that nobody has really indicated an interest in doing the Salvation Army. Uh, so, oh, he says I've got it all wrapped around. But anyway, so I haven't set up any times. This late, most of the days are full. We don't have a full crew that can manage the whole stand. And so it's up to each individual to go to see when they can work. Uh, so we can just fill in someplace on an individual basis. I'll try to find out, if you're interested in doing it, Howard. Uh, if well, I guess okay, okay, okay. Well, we'll see what we can handle. And of course, there's still December the 11th is our Christmas party and official visit for the governor. Yep. Yeah. Also, you might want to go ahead and put a separate email out to the people to find out if they're wanting to come now. So keep it on their list so that some people don't get to this immediately. So go ahead and put it out. Okay. Okay. And other than that, the fundraiser for the Mardi Gras thing in February for the foundation. This is Foundation Month, so if anybody wants to contribute, I know several of us do it at automatic, and yeah. So anyway, but that's all. The next meeting, I think there will be one. The second Saturday, I think we're having a roundtable because I think that's when the governor nominee designate will be selected, and so either before or after, probably after the roundtable. So anyway, that's all that I have. Okay. Okay, we will have our deal muted. So if you ask questions, Michelle, it may take us a while to get unmuted.
Fair enough. It's all good. All good. Thank you. All right. So before we get started, is everyone seeing the presentation on their screen? Just want to make sure we're looking at the right stuff. Excellent. All right. So since we're a small group, I am going to go ahead and stay on video. Sometimes when you get a lot of videos going at once, then bandwidth becomes an issue. So we'll give this a go and see how it works. And because we're such a small group, if you do have questions as we go, feel free to chime in and ask. I'm more than happy to answer that. So I'd like to start by saying hi and thanks for having me join this session today. I'm really excited to be able to share some ideas with you about ways to become a stronger leader, especially when it comes to virtual teams. So no matter where in the world they sit, that you can do some really amazing things with your team. And I'd like to share a little bit about how to make that work. So let me just go hide that. Perfect. Okay. So if you're already leading a virtual team, I hope that you'll be able to take away at least a few helpful ideas today. And if you don't have a virtual team, you're in luck. Yes, please. On video? Oh. Oh. Yep. Hold on. Yep. Got it.
It's, it's a text.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, you do?
But we saw what she was reading.
Oh yeah, so hold on. Yeah, we don't want to show that.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes. Let's see. All right, are you seeing the slideshow now? No? Okay. Hold on.
Why don't you stop recording and start recording now?
Yeah, sorry. I'm glad you all are very patient. That's great. Got it. Yep. Okay, go on there and then there. Hold on. Okay, getting there. Hold on. Yes. Yeah, I got that. Got it. Yep. Let's see. Hold on. There we go. Yes. Got it. Hey, I can be taught maybe. Let's see. Well, you know what? Let's just do this. Let me go. All right, is it work? Hold on. Yep. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. If not, I'll just do the old-fashioned way of just showing the slideshow part of it, which is also fun. Yeah. Hold on. Yep, let's just do that. No, I appreciate that. No, I appreciate it. Trust me. Trust me. See, I told you I was doing it all. All right. Yep. All right. Working?
That's it, I think.
Are you? Well,
Let's just go with it.
all right, hold on. Let me just wait. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Hold on. Let me just do this real quick. Display. Let's do that. Now are you seeing it? The
Yes.
right one? Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. No. Thank you for telling me. Like I said, I'm
We
learning.
started recording before all of this. Record, David, if you
So,
can.
yeah, are we recording again?
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Okay. So great. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to.
He is.
Ready?
It's not.
He is recording on his stuff.
Yep. All good? All right. Here we go. Okay, so thanks again, everybody, for having me join this session today. I'm really excited to be able to share what I know about leading from a distance. I've been doing this for the last 20 plus years, and I've learned a few things along the way. And I think there's a lot of good learnings that I've had and things that I've learned from others that I'd really like to share today. So today I am going to share some practical ideas for how to help you to become a stronger leader of a virtual team. And the good thing is you can do most of these things with little or no cost. And they work not only for virtual teams, but also for co-located teams. So we will cover all of that today. So what's in it for you? If you're already leading a virtual team, I hope you can take away at least a few ideas that are new or a little bit of new perspective. If you aren't yet leading a virtual team, I'm hoping that you can take away some good ideas that you can use for your co-located team. So co-located means simply that your team is all in one place. And chances are very good in any case that you will have a virtual team at some point in your career because, frankly, that's just the way things are headed these days. You'll see that more and more companies are going toward virtual teams, which are teams that are located in different places. And they do this because there are so many advantages, both for companies and also for the people that work there, right? So for companies, you have lower labor costs, not just it's interesting, not just in case you're going to move overseas to do your work outside of the country, but also even within the country. There are a lot of opportunities there. On the worker side, there's much better integration between what you're able to do in your outside life and what you're able to do in your inside life when you have a virtual team. Working from home, working in other locations really allows for a lot more flexibility in terms of who's coming into the workforce, which is much more inclusive and a good thing as well. I think in terms of getting going, right, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about, there we go, talking about what virtual teams are, because I think this is maybe something that leads to a lot of questions. And then we'll get into the practical ideas for how to solve some of the toughest challenges that you have as a virtual team leader. So what is a virtual team? There are basically three questions that we ask when we talk about virtual teams. Where is the team physically located? Who is part of that team? And how are they working? So the where, typically we're talking about where are they geographically located. So I mentioned the co-located team is a team that's all in one place, versus a geographically distributed or dispersed team, which could be local, which means that they are in either a city or in a very close proximity, similarly sized area. It could be regional, which could be a number of states, for example, in the US that are close together, or even an entire country. Or if it's a grouping of smaller countries that are close together, sometimes it can be that as well. And then you have global, which is, as it says, global. Right, so these are teams that are located all across the world. So when I was leading teams in the corporate world, I was leading a team of about 300 people across, let's call it 25 different countries on 5 different continents. So that's truly the definition of global as you get out to that size of a team. When we talk about who, there are really 2 types of who, right? You have insourced employees and contractors, right? People who are working for you directly as part of your reporting line. And then you also have outsourcing, right? So a lot of us are familiar with this concept of outsourcing in India, the Philippines, some other countries as well. But outsourcing can be 2 different types, right? There's internal outsourcing, which means people that work for your same company but have a different line of reporting. And then you have people who are outsourced and external, which means they work for another company that works on behalf of your team. So now that we have some clarity on those 2 pieces, we move to the how, right? So the last piece of this is how the work is actually getting done by the people in the team. So the 2 most common situations are home-based employees, or workers, I should say, and office-based, right? So if you're home-based, it means you're normally working from a home office, but it could be a shared workspace or something else as well. And then there's, of course, office-based, which we're all familiar with. But there are two, let's call them varieties of working remotely. One's called telecommuting, which is where you most of the time or all the time work from an outside place, right? So whether that's your home or somewhere else. And then there's also hoteling. So hoteling is a situation where you are office-based, but the majority of your work may be done at client sites. Salespeople typically have this kind of arrangement where they come in on occasion. They don't have a dedicated workspace in an office, but they do have these hotel spaces or shared spaces that they can hook up in when needed. So let's move on and talk about this thing called the distance disadvantage. So over the last, let's call it a couple million years, humans have been evolving and are very attached to this idea of togetherness, right? For us, it's been very important to be able to see and hear and touch and even smell each other, right? This has a lot of advantages for people who, for our ancestors, and frankly, it still does have a lot of advantages. But with our technology advances over especially the last couple of decades, we really have so many more options to work together, even if we're not physically in the same space. So when we talk about the advantage of being together and working together, there is that advantage for sure, but we can actually start to replicate that even when we're at a distance. So the distance disadvantage then is really the natural baseline of a virtual team that stems from the fact that people instinctively prefer to be in close physical proximity to other people. In other words, if I'm a team leader and my team is located somewhere, I typically want to go and sit with that team and be with that team because that makes me feel more comfortable about trusting them, about getting them involved in projects, and they in turn are more comfortable with that idea as well. So when we are working in a virtual team, it's really important that we're doing things that help to minimize this distance disadvantage. So there are three things, no matter what kind of team you have, that are absolutely essential for any team: honesty, clarity, and trust. And the greatest of those is absolutely trust. To be clear, this really isn't about brutal honesty. It's not about absolute clarity, nor is it about blind trust. But it's really in how these attributes enable our teams to make excellent choices, whether or not we're physically in the room with them. And while these are important things to any team leader, for sure, they absolutely must be front and center when it comes to leading a virtual team. Because as that distance increases between you as the leader and your team, that need for trust grows ever and ever greater, as well as the need for honest and open communication, also clarity on the direction we're going. All those extra things that you're used to having, like context clues and body language and things like that, just aren't there unless you make an effort to put them there. So with trust being absolutely at the heart of leadership, it really does benefit you, it benefits the team, and it benefits the product or service that you're trying to deliver. Can you lead without trust? Yep, absolutely you can, but you're always going to have that nagging feeling of impending doom, right? You're never going to have that feeling of, yeah, the team's got this, and if something goes wrong, we can recover from it. You're always going to be worried. And that's actually what I found is really the hallmark of that, do you have the right level of trust in place? That level of trust comes when I, as the leader, if something bad happens, that I, as the leader, immediately know that, that you as a team have done the right things. Something bad has happened. Okay. But I'm not worried about, did you make a mistake? Did you do something wrong on purpose? I'm really more concerned with how do I help you to move forward? And likewise, as a team, that you've got that right level of trust when you know that the leader is not going to come after you and blame you or accuse you or punish you for something that, that might have gone wrong. And not only that, but you also know that leader is there to help you to get the problem solved. So trust is really three things. It's consistency between your words and your actions. It's earned through experience. And it's absolutely two ways, right? A leader can't just trust the team and the team not trust the leader, and vice versa. So let's talk about how to create that exceptional team environment in which honesty, clarity, and trust are really the core values that enable success. So if you imagine trust as the main gear that drives the honesty in the communication and also the clarity in terms of direction and how we get there, there are 7 solutions that are really the distillation of the last 20 plus years working with virtual teams, right? And in today's session, we're going to go through each one of these. Don't worry, not in depth and detail, but we'll go through each one of these. And I'll share with you not only what it's about, but really how do you apply it and when might you need to actually use some of these things. And if you'd like a deeper dive on any of these, I'm more than happy to take that offline. I think that'd be a great discussion. So keep that in mind as we go. So solution number 1, choosing your team wisely. So most of us inherit teams from other leaders, right? We don't get to build them from scratch. So we may pass this one by and say, doesn't really apply to me. I'm stuck with the team I have, and that's just that. I have to live with it. But like family members, teams, it's not so much about who you choose to be in your team, it's how you choose to lead them, right? And in a lot of ways, inheriting a poor performing team even, right, is actually a blessing because that kind of team can really teach you a lot about how to lead. It'll introduce you potentially to new ideas and new perspectives that you hadn't thought of before. So it can actually accelerate your growth as a leader. So I always tell people, be careful what you ask for on this one, right? Sometimes it's actually better to get a team that's, kind of everyone else's cast-offs. And I know from my own personal experience that that's definitely true. Some teams that had gone through 3 or 4 leaders before I got them were, just written off as, they're just a disaster. When in fact, they were actually really good teams that just needed a little spit and polish, a little bit of help getting to the right place. But they had absolutely excellent skills and experience. They just needed to channel it differently. So regardless of whether you inherit people or hire them yourself, your first job as a leader is to decide what kind of team it is that you actually want to lead. You'd be surprised, right? People really react very quickly and they adapt very quickly to a good leader. And that's also, by the way, the same reason why a really good team with a bad leader is really going to go south quickly. Right? Because even though they've been fine, if they don't have a good leader at the helm, they're just not going to perform at their highest level. So how do you choose that team wisely? Well, it comes with actually, there's a lot of things that go into it, but what I really want to focus on today is a technique that I've used many times before that's really, really effective. And that's to visualize your successful team in 12 to 18 months' time. Right? What does that team look like? What are they doing? What feedback are you getting from stakeholders about their performance? And based on that, creating a blueprint, a plan, right? To really figure out how you're going to get that team to that place. And of course, you share it with the team and all that. But there are really 3 questions that you want to focus on. What are the strengths in that team that need amplification, right? What are they already doing well that you can build on? Secondly, what are the weaknesses that need remediation? Right? What are the things that they're doing that they're maybe never going to be their strengths, but what's really getting in their way, right? How do you minimize those weaknesses? And then finally, what's the culture that you want to create, right? Do you want a very competitive culture in the team? Do you want a very collaborative culture? Do you want a good mix of the two? Whatever it is, what is it that you're trying to create? This activity alone can absolutely turn around your team, right? It clarifies the vision. It helps to set the priorities. It demonstrates your commitment to open and honest communication. It engages the team and really establishes you as a visible, approachable leader who's interested in advancing the team, not just yourself. And it begins to build trust. And as an added bonus, and this is one of my favorite parts, for those people who are not well aligned to your vision, they'll start to look outside the team for other opportunities, which saves a lot of hassle for you in terms of having to manage them out or fire them, or otherwise find them a new home, and which is also pretty costly too. You can use this solution anytime, but in particular, I recommend this for fresh starts or reboots, right? So teams where you're the new leader in place, or you're building a new team for the first time, really setting this as the groundwork is especially helpful. So moving on to solution number 2, open and honest communication. Knowledge is power, particularly when the right person has the right information at the right time with the right contextual understanding. Amazing things can happen. And if you really want to lead an outstanding team, the way that you do that is to understand that one of your most important jobs as a leader is to make sure that that happens, right? That you have the right people with the right information at the right time with the right context. Some companies have amazing, powerful knowledge sharing cultures. Most don't, right? But what you do in your team is up to you. And particularly in terms of this, right? No one can stop you from sharing information within your team, right? That's one of the things that doesn't tend to get overruled. With the limited time we have today, I'm just going to skim the surface, but I really wanted to just highlight a couple of quick things, right? As far as the value, right, the value of disseminating information, your team is able to deliver a better product and service, make better decisions, and work with focus, whether you're in the room or not, when you do this well. And for you as a leader, you have a significant advantage because you can stop worrying all the time about what's going on, about whether the team is doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? Whether they're making good decisions in and out, right? And you can start looking up and out and into the future rather than down and back at what's going on behind you. Of course, every positive has a negative. So let's quickly touch on the potential negatives and how to mitigate them. Excuse me. There are certainly some times when there's a particular piece of information that's highly sensitive and can't be shared, right? So for example, if you have company financial results, right, that are not yet public, not even for internal consumption. If you can't share information because it's confidential about an individual employee, whatever the case may be, those situations are going to happen. But instead of worrying about what the particulars are, you can focus on what-if scenarios, right? By helping the team imagine the possibilities. For example, hey, in general, our sector is not doing so well, right? And just in the industry at large, so what can we do within this team to help with that, right? Or, in general, our financial results have not been so strong for the last couple of quarters. How can we help with that within our team? These are really practical ways that you can face the adversity in the unknown and help the team get comfortable with it so that they can kind of ignore all of those distractions that are happening and really focus on how to move things ahead. And then when things do happen, right, when bad things do happen, because they will, your team is really well prepared and they trust you to help them through that process. Sometimes you'll share something and you'll miss some important information, right? Maybe you share some piece of information, but you forget to put it in the context. Or maybe you share, some information that's misunderstood. Don't sweat this, right? It's going to happen. Use it as an opportunity to help people understand what a good communicator does in that situation, right? They own it. They say, you know what? I'm sorry. I shared this. I didn't explain this other part. I'm sorry because it messed us all up. What do we do to solve it for now, right? And lastly, there's one other thing that can happen. You can share too much, right? That does happen. But when it does, and it doesn't happen very often, when it does, the team gets a little bit distracted. Just realize that it's happened, own it and move on, right? And then in the future, take that opportunity to realize that, you might need to be a little more specific, such as, hey, ABC is happening. We need to do something about this aspect, but this other stuff is, outside of our control. It just helps to focus the team. Open and honest communication is absolutely a high trust builder as well as a productivity accelerant. And my motto is, when in doubt, share it out. So in order to make communication natural, effective, and fast, I really strongly recommend adopting a communication framework up front. So this is not rocket science, right? This is a very simple idea. You simply write down the who, what, when, why, and how down on a piece of paper, and then think about all the different groups within your team that need to know about it, right? The ones that are individually affected, the ones that are not affected but just need to know. And then you plan that out and then execute it. It's that simple, right? Not rocket science at all. But the one thing I want to make sure that I emphasize here is do not underestimate the power of the how, right? The way that you communicate is so, so important. For example, if you have a highly sensitive topic, right, and not sensitive by your estimation as a leader, but sensitive to the people you're communicating to, do not leave that to chance, right? Take the opportunity to travel and be with your team and do that in person, or at least do it on video. That is not the place to do a blast email or even a phone call, right? That just doesn't cut it. Poor communication is absolutely amplified by the distance disadvantage. Don't give yourself extra work and don't stress your team out by missing it, right? Take the time, invest, and do it right. Solution number 3, as soon as I find my button, there we go. Oops. Prioritize the priorities, right? Don't you hate it when your boss tells you that everything is a priority and just to figure it out? You know, they may not use those exact words, but that's what they're thinking. All the way through the line, right? Everyone from the very, frontline manager all the way through CEOs, we have this awful, awful habit of making everything a priority so that nothing's a priority. That nonsense has to stop. There's always one highest priority, always. It may not be obvious, but don't be fooled, it does exist. So I have 3 questions that I always ask myself to figure out what is that one highest priority. The first one is, if you stop doing this, would a majority of your current client base or customers abandon your company? If that answer is yes, you may have found the top priority. If not, it's not the right priority, move on. Second question, if you stop doing this, would you struggle to win new clients and customers? If the answer is yes, you might have found your top priority. If the answer is not, move on, that's not the one. And finally, if you stop delivering this, would it be likely that you'd have to lower your prices or your fees or pay penalties or fines? If the answer is yes, you probably found that top priority. Now, you may, after that exercise, you may come up with a couple of different things. So you may need to do some additional discernment. But more than likely, you found that top priority. So what do you do once you have it? Once you have that, you share it, right? You share it with the team. You make it clear, this is what our priority is. This is why it's the priority. And you engage the team in really understanding how they connect to that priority, right? They may not work on it directly, but maybe some of the work that they do is connected to it, right? So that they need to understand how those things work together. Another thing you can do is making sure you report out on progress against that priority, right? Making sure that the team understands, that this is really the priority and we're going to talk about it every time we get together for a meeting, for example. And that really leads us to the last thing, which is making sure that you're reporting, whether it's written or verbal, right? Your goals, your supporting tools, even your org structure itself is all focused on making sure that that priority remains at the center, right? So just to be clear, I'm not talking about individual projects here necessarily. It's more of overall concepts that are consistently delivered by your team. So the next one, this next one is way easier, right, than the ones we've talked about so far. Being visible is highly tactical and super easy to execute. It's a little tougher to convert it into a habit. So I hope most leaders look at this and they say, well, duh, of course you need to be visible for your team. But the reality is a lot of leaders, they say, well, yeah, I'd like to be more visible, but if I'm more visible, then everybody's going to contact me all the time, right? And that's legitimate, right? But I think we should start there because honestly, if you're constantly bombarded by people in or outside your team with questions, I can almost guarantee 2 things, right? 1, you are legitimately good at your job, right? And number 2, you've probably inadvertently created an unhealthy dependent relationship with other people, right? They look to you for too much stuff, right? It could be in making decisions. It could be in handling escalations. It could be in any number of different things, but there's probably an unhealthy relationship there. So how do you create good visibility and create healthy relationships? It's pretty easy. It starts with setting up an automated signature line, right? That's how simple it really is. Every email app on the planet, I think, has this, but every signature at a minimum should include some type of closing or salutation, right? Thanks, best regards, something, and your name. An amazing number of leaders don't include this nice pleasantry at the end, right? Do you just hang up the phone when you're done with the conversation? No, right? You say, goodbye, I'll talk to you later, or whatever. But there's some way to close it out that is not so abrupt as just stopping, right? So that's absolutely a requirement. Putting your working time, or your phone number is also critical, right? Like, you should be able to reach someone. If you're stressed out about that, if that freaks you out, you say, oh my gosh, there's no way that I could possibly do that. Start small. Put your office number only. Send it directly to voicemail, whatever it is that you need to make yourself feel more comfortable, but include that phone number. It feels much more human to talk to someone on the phone than it does to get an email. And lastly, especially if you work outside of the same time zone as the majority of other people on your team, include your time zone, right? Make sure, or normal working hours, make sure people know when they can expect a response versus when you're out, right? And this, of course, there are lots of other things too, but that's a basic. Secondly, logging on to your office chat or instant messaging every day. There are so many leaders who don't do this because they just don't want to be visible. This is not about you, right? This is really about the team being able to know when you're in the office and when you're not, or when you're working and when you're not. If you're more comfortable, go on busy or go on on do not disturb. That's fine, but just be on, right? So that they know that you're there. If you can, push yourself a little harder and try to set up office hours, right? Times when you set to available on instant messaging so that people can reach out to you and ask you quick questions, right? You'd be amazed at how much time and energy and stress you can save for your team. And, by the way, stress for you later, cleaning things up, if they can just ask a quick question over chat, right? I would also strongly encourage you to make sure that your leaders in your team are doing the same thing, right? Require, if you must, that they do that same thing. Create an out-of-office or create a signature line, and also make sure they log on to chat daily. It's just so simple, right? Why not do it? The last one's a little bit tougher, right? So it's a little bit of a stretch assignment. It's called setting rules of engagement, right? It may sound a little silly. It may sound a little overdone and a little bit, unnecessary, but here's what it is, right? It's really about making sure that you're establishing some kind of plan, right, for getting work done that doesn't involve you all the time. So, for example, push requests that probably should be answered by someone else. Someone else is probably better at answering than you. Push those requests directly to whoever that is in your team, right? Do you need to be the one answering questions about some very low-level thing? Do you need to be the one approving requests and things like that? Probably not, right? Some of them, yes, but probably not the lower-level ones. Push those down. Let others have a chance, right? Help, spread the love a little bit. But the most important thing is making sure that you're very consistent with this, right? Not only push it down, but also provide the context and tell the requester, hey, you know what? It'd be faster. Next time, just go to this person. They can help you with these types of requests going forward. When you're the leader, it's really not all about you, right? It's really about making sure that you're visible so that you can have more time, you can have less disruption, and you can get better delivery from your team and grow them all at the same time, right? This is a really easy one. Solution number 5. Click the wrong button. Oh. All right, sorry, I think I went one too far. No, yes, I did. Back up. Sorry, got a little click happy. Solution number 5, ask nicely, right? So similarly to the end with thanks and best regards or whatever, this is about starting with hi, right? When you're writing an email, when you're calling someone on the phone, create some humanity for yourself, right? It's so easy. Just saying hello makes a tremendous difference in how someone perceives the rest of your message. And use their name, right? So, hi, Bob, hi, Mary, whatever, and then continue. You don't need to be fancy, right? You don't need to know the difference between, oh, well, this person, is in this country and therefore they'd like this kind of a, how are you doing kind of entrance. No, just keep it simple. Just say hello, right? Just as a baseline. When you are making a request, use please and thank you, right? It's so simple to do, but it makes such a difference in how quickly someone will respond to you. So a lot of people, when they hear this one, they're like, oh, it's such a waste of time. It doesn't make a difference. If I ask nicely, then it's going to be confusing to a non-native speaker of the language that I'm using. That's baloney, right? I can tell you, working for more than 20 years in this space with teams from all over the world, right? It counts. It makes a difference. So just trust me on this one and make these changes. And the thing is, too, you got to remember, and I would say, if you're worried about not feeling like you're tough enough, right? If you feel like, oh, this is going to make me soft. It's going to make me not as tough as I really am. Again, baloney. What it does is say you're a class act, right? And if you're looking to move up the chain in the company, understand that when you're at the executive level, it's expected that you're going to have very good manners, right? Nobody's going to put you in front of clients or prospects or financial analysts if you're completely uncouth and you don't say please and thank you and hello. That's just not going to happen. So taking this as an opportunity to practice those behaviors, even if you don't feel them, practicing it's important. The last thing with respect to asking nicely is being authentic in your offers to help. I don't actually recommend at all that you make blanket offers of help, like, oh, just call me if you need anything, right? I don't think that really works. I don't think that that's a very effective way to interact with others. Instead, be very specific and make it something that you can live with. So, for example, I'd love to help you if you need any help. Let's say if you need any help with that comparison chart, please send it to me in email, and I'll be happy to respond within a business day. Easy. That's something that you can live with. It's something that sets clear expectations for the other person, and it also really is an authentic offer. So just making sure that you're doing those kinds of things really does make a difference. And again, especially when you're at a distance, a lot of this stuff may happen in email. You may not have the opportunity to make your tone clear, right, through the email. So do all these extra little things with the words to help with making that, really much more effective. Solution number 6, building trust. So my daughter is 10, right, and she had a great saying that she came up with about this, and it really is just perfect. I think she said this: you start with a food drive. You start with asking for a food drive, not for solving for world hunger, right? And I think this is so smart because it really talks about the essence of building trust. You start small and you keep practicing, and you ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if this doesn't work out? When you have a virtual team, you're going to build trust a lot faster when you recognize that every opportunity to build trust is precious and should be explored. So you have 2 jobs as a leader in this regard. The first one is to identify appropriate opportunities. So like this, right? You ask them to set up a food drive. You don't ask them to solve world hunger. One problem is manageable. That other one is just, it's way out of control. And the second thing is you ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen if this goes poorly? Now, a lot of leaders really struggle with that one. They either trust too little or too much. And in those cases, you really want to focus on that what's the worst that can happen problem. If there is something that can go wrong, if it's legitimately going to be a bad scene, if something goes south, then look at how can you set the right tone and the right direction up front? What can you do to put guardrails in place on the project or whatever it is to keep it on track? Is there a way to establish checkpoints that are going to alert you to not so positive situations? All those things are great ways for you to let the team operate within its own space, right, and learn from the experience while also making sure that you as the leader don't lose control of it. So the last thing is getting on a plane, right? This is the one solution that really isn't necessary for co-located teams because you're already all together. But when you lead virtual teams, there are some times when you just have to be there. There's just no option. So, for example, when you're merging new teams together, right? You're reorganizing teams perhaps. If a new leader is coming on board, or if you launch a major new project, these are all appropriate times to get on a plane and go visit, right? And go spend time. Really, traveling isn't inherently good or bad, but one mistake a lot of virtual team leaders make is to travel just to be there, They feel like somehow if they go once a quarter or they go once a month, that that's actually going to help the team to be more productive, to be more connected, to be more whatever it is, right? But the reality is that creates really unhealthy dependencies on your physical presence, right? So the team is they're not going to grow as quickly. They're not going to feel trusted if you're always there. Now, if you do have the budget and you can travel, there are lots of good reasons to travel. And some of those could be to celebrate a successful product launch or major milestone or the winning of an award. Or you could have leaders travel that might be closer to the team, right? People who are closer to the actual, people working on the ground. Great, have them travel. Have full-time telecommuters get together periodically to sit together and recharge and refresh and create some of those relationships, right, with each other that just can't be built when you're just talking on the phone or even on video, right? And at the same time, have them tackle some nagging issues that need some brainstorming. Those are all great reasons to travel. On the other hand, a lot of times, frankly, most of the time, I would say, we don't have the budget, right? But all is not lost. I have the top three most effective ways that I've found to creatively fund travel. So here we go. The first one is to tie that travel budget to reducing project cost, accelerating delivery, or otherwise improving the results on a project. If you can provide specifics and commit to delivering them, that can be the ticket, right, to getting travel approved, even under a freeze situation, right? And that can be especially useful when it's tied to delivering for a key client. And key clients could be ones who are highly visible or highly vocal. And clients here could be, a whole population of end users or a big corporate client, right? It could be anything. But really being able to tie that together is a huge help. When you're budgeting new projects, build in the travel budget at the start. It's much easier when you've got a CapEx project or something else going on to actually just put that cost in at the beginning as part of the overall project cost. It's a lot easier to get approved that way, and especially if you go out of your way to pick a lower cost location for that team to be able to meet, right? That could be a place where a majority of people are, or it could be a lower cost location that's a neutral site where everyone can go in, but still the cost is lower. Finally, you can tie travel for a client-related or other mandatory trip, right? And we all have those, with a detour to see your team, right? So let's say I'm meeting a client in Barcelona. I stay for an extra day, and I meet with my team there. And then on the way home, I fly back through Paris so that I can visit with some of my other team, right? Easy, almost no additional cost. And it allows me to take the advantage to see part of my team while I'm on the road anyway. When travel is critical, use those weapons that the business values, right? Lower cost, increased speed, and better delivery. Almost always, you'll get travel approved if you really fight for it. And that's your job as a leader, to really fight for it.
Are you muted?
So then, what's next, right? So now we've talked about a whole lot of stuff. We've covered so much ground today. I hope you've been able to pick up some good ideas, some useful new perspectives that will help you to be a more successful leader with your virtual teams or your co-located team, either way. Now, just to kind of, again, recap, there's no reason to try to do all these things at one time, right? I think there's actually not any value in doing that at all. I think it would be very counterproductive. But instead, think about, what does your team need most right now? And which ideas out of all these that we've seen here do you want to implement first? If you're having trouble picking one, I have a few ideas for you. The first one is to pick something really easy, right? So for example, adding a signature line to your email, super easy. But then set a little bit more challenging goal. For example, setting those boundaries with people that are making requests of you all the time and redirect them consistently. Or maybe you want to pick the one that makes you feel a little bit guilty, right? Something that's, just feels like, I really should tackle that one, but I really don't want to. Guilt can be a great sign that you know what the most important thing is for your team, but you just really don't want to do it. But think about how great you're going to feel after just a couple weeks, and you're starting to see some results with that. Think about those items. Or you could set up a complimentary consultation. I'd be more than happy to talk with you. Just talking to someone outside, it doesn't have to be me, right? Someone outside of your usual group or your normal circles, right? That can be a really great way for you to talk through your thinking, right? And decide what's most important. So if you have found today's session enlightening or at least moderately helpful, you'll definitely want to check out the book that I'm writing right now. It's called Don't Get on a Plane and Other Unexpected but Highly Effective Ways to Build and Lead Virtual Teams. It's coming out in early 2019. I'm very excited about it. But that's really the show for today. I really appreciate everyone's time, and I want to thank Howard in particular for inviting me to speak today. And with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those now.
I just want to thank you for being here this evening and your time and everything.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Great. You're welcome.
Oh, okay. Oh, Michael Perry came in late. Hello, Michael.
Greetings, friends.
Hello. That'd be great. Thank you so much, Howard. I appreciate it.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Okay, sure will.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Bye.